Hello, everyone, and welcome to Business Spotlight. I am Mark Hunter, and I am speaking on behalf of Brenda Hector of Action Coach Aberdeenshire. And today I've got Paul Haggath of Symposium Coffee House. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for asking me here.
No problem, no problem. It's a pleasure having you. So, Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself and Symposium Coffee House then.
Yeah, sure. My name's Paul. I was actually born in Worcester, way down in England. Moved to Peterhead at the age of 8. So I'm 48 this year. So lived up here 40 years now. So I'm pretty much a Scotsman. I've got four young girls. Well, they're not so young now. I've got four girls that are age 14, 15, 19, and 22. Eldest one is now married. But back, I left school at 16, so didn't really know what I wanted to do with myself. So for a few years, just did a few different things. Went to sea, worked with a joiner, a carpenter, loads of different things. And what I really found that I really like to do is work with people. So when I got to the age of 19, I decided the best thing to do was to go to college, university, and try and get some education. The goal was to end up in America and work there in hospitality. So I set myself a task and used my gift of the gab and managed to get entrance into Aberdeen College at age 19. And I ended up going on to RGU in Aberdeen and getting a business degree in hospitality management. So quite a turnaround from school to getting my degree, and then obviously from there on, it was like, okay, what job am I going to do? And at that point, I then met who I was then to marry, and she was from Peterhead, so we decided to stay here. And I worked in a local hotel originally. Loved the job, hated the unsociable hours of it, working Christmas Day, all the holidays that came, working overnight. And I thought there must be something better than that. So at the age of 30, I thought, right, what could I do? I wanted a business that was successful. I didn't really mind what it was, but I saw a gap in the market in Peterhead. The best coffee you could get was Nescafe Instant in a polystyrene cup for 50p. So I thought, hey, as a non-coffee, non-tea drinker at age 30, I really just wanted a successful business, somewhere where I enjoyed to work and I could work with people, and the people that worked for us would also enjoy it. So coffee it was to be, and it wasn't long until I was a coffee snob. So that's basically the background when we started Symposium, and it was actually in May 2005. So it'll be is that 19 years this year in May, and that was the start of Symposium. Basically, from just wanted something that was in hospitality, working with people where there was a gap in the market.
That's a fantastic story there, and to have been going on in business for nearly 20 years now, the stats sadly for any business to last over 10 years are pretty poor. So, you've
Yeah,
done really well to get to 19, and I've got no doubt that 20 next year will be a big year for you. So,
yeah.
congratulations.
No, thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you.
So what has been the ingredient then for success for
Well,
Symposium Coffee House then?
yeah, well, I think back originally, I go into schools a lot and speak with the kids there, try and motivate them because obviously there are a lot of kids that are academic, and then there's people like me who didn't see any point in being at school at all. Thought it was basically a waste of time, and why did I need to know French and all this kind of stuff anyway? Because it was pointless. And now I'm able to go into schools and speak to the kids there. Some of them obviously very good with their hands, very good with their skills, their creativity, and it is good now. I'm working with developing young workers, UIW, which is really, really good. Just encouraging people. Look, yeah, you might not be the smartest in the class, but it doesn't mean that you're not smart and that you can't do something with your life. So I do a lot of that. So I think for me, the main ingredient was I wanted to do something that I had a passion for, something that I enjoyed, and picking something that there was a niche in the market at the time. So the first thing I came up with before we ever did anything with the coffee house was to come up with a name. I didn't want it to be called Paul's Cafe because that would mean everyone was wondering where is Paul. And my goal was never to be working in the shop. It was always to own 10 premises and to have a business rather than a place that I was creating a job for myself. I wanted to create a business. So the first thing I came up with is with the name Symposium. Basically, wanted something like meeting place, gathering, and from the Greek word of symposium, the intellectuals used to come together. They would have a symposium, It would be on a subject, so it could be any subject, could be sport, could be health, and it's either written or verbal. So I thought, well, this is a great place where people come and chat together. And then after the symposium, the guys would stay behind, and there would be food, there would be drink, there would be entertainment. So I thought, well, symposium, it's ideal. And I set to task one a student in Aberdeen to come up with the logo symposium with the zero is O in the middle as a coffee cup. And we went from there. So the first thing we did was the brand, started with a brand, and then from there on, I went with the color of the walls, how the uniform's going to look, the way that they would speak to the customers, and then obviously the coffee from there. And when we first started, like I said, I didn't drink coffee, so I looked to somebody who could provide that information. At that time, it was Costa Coffee, Italian, got a passion for Italy, so it made sense to go with a company that the guys originated from Italy. So they came and they did that, but I never ever wanted to have anybody else's brand on my business. I always wanted my own. So we set out with a lot of Costa served here, and we had their Costa cups and their beans. And then over a period of time, we stripped the Costa branding. So we ended up using our own paper cups, our own ceramic cups, and then slowly, I started going to different roasteries around Scotland, and we created our own blend, which we now have used for I think around about 15, 16 years. And it's our own symposium blend where we use Robusta and Arabic beans, and we create a coffee that's like chocolate, hazelnut, caramel kind of flavor. The reason why I think our coffee is so fantastic is because you're looking at a non-coffee drinker. So I always would smell coffee and love the idea of the coffee, but it never matched the taste ever. So I believe our blend tastes like coffee. People say if people come in the shop, they go, "Oh, your coffee's so good. It tastes like coffee." So I think that is one of the major success stories, but also the people that work for us. So obviously, like I said, the idea was 10 coffee houses. It was never for me to be there, to work there. It was to basically operate a business. So our people, just now, I don't know, we must have had hundreds and hundreds of people through with us. Managers on some of our sites have been with us for over 12 years. And there is turnover, but not massive high turnover. And I think really the success of the day-to-day running of the business is definitely the people that we employ. And I have many guys like local businessmen say, "Hey, how do you get all the good staff? How can we get all the bad staff?" And without sounding too rude, I say, well, obviously you need to employ people who are like yourself or the way you want them to behave within the business. And I believe my managers now, they do the recruitment themselves, and they're obviously recruiting similar like people. Now, everyone that works for us has different characters in that, but all basically genuinely want to work in hospitality, want to serve people, want to enjoy their job, want the people that come to be served to enjoy it. So major things too. One thing, the coffee blend tastes like coffee. It's really, really good. And the people that work for us, and then obviously the atmosphere that we've got with the branding.
Yeah, fantastic. Lots of great learnings there, I think, for anyone watching this. How you started off talking about making a positive impact, motivating young people about getting into the world of work, your branding, coffee itself, about being, and then being passionate about it as well, about what it is that you're actually in it for. So fantastic,
Yeah.
and what I was really interested in about you speaking to young people is someone from an education background. I was a lecturer in a college,
Okay.
and all about giving young people an opportunity. And you talked about motivating, working with the DYW. But for yourself though, in regards to motivation, what is it that motivates you today then?
What's interesting? An interesting story. I mean, because I mean, for me, it's like what motivates me is I just want to have a healthy, happy life. I mean, just to go in a wee bit of my background story. So, I mean, my parents were Salvation Army officers, so we were brought up moving every 2 years. You know, our clothes were all handed down from other people or from cousins or from, we lived on very little. And so basically, me opening a business was not about money. It's never been about money for me. So I've always been coming from a good position of I'm not like trying to build wealth and all that. I'm just really trying to have a good life and for people to enjoy working and for me to enjoy what I do. So that's really good. So my motivation is just to be happy, healthy, and enjoy what I'm doing. But like it's not been easy for us. I mean, we set up in 2005. We did start to expand. My wife at the time, Wendy, she actually passed away 2 years ago. I'll speak about that in just a second. And
Yeah.
but before that, we had COVID, and just the way we worked together, we did work together as a team for many years. And how that worked was basically when stuff came up, when stuff arose, we always didn't like panic. We'd stop, we'd pause, we'd think, how can we do this? So when COVID happened and Boris Johnson came on the TV to say 10 o'clock tonight, close your shops. At that point, just on the lead up to that, I'd always wanted to take our till system off of the normal Casio, and I wanted to take it onto like iPads and online. And we just, but when was COVID 20? So let's go back 2 years to 2018. This now here's a story. So this is about our business, some of the struggles. So 2018 January, I had a stroke. I was paralyzed down my right hand side. I lost speech. My wife thought I died. My kids were kissing me goodbye. I was leaving the house. They thought that was the end of me. Thankfully, over the next year, I made full recovery. But within that time, I was so bored and I was so frustrated that I started building the system with a company now called Goodtill, who have now been bought over by a company called SumUp. And we started doing our till system online. I built a website so we could sell coffee online as well. We got our own roasters in house so we could blend and roast for ourselves. And we also worked with a company to build an app. So that's what I did when I was bored after during the stroke recovery. Then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I then was roasting coffee. I was selling it online, and I was driving around Aberdeenshire by myself. I was roasting coffee during the day, and I was driving around Aberdeenshire at night delivering coffee, while my 50, 60 employees were all sent at home during COVID. So that's one of the things. And because we did the app, when we were allowed to then open for takeaway only, we'd just taken on a new lease with Asda, the superstore, in Peterhead with containers. They built containers for us and we started leasing it. 6 weeks after opening there was COVID. My two eldest daughters and me decided when we were allowed to do takeaway, we went into the shop every day. We used the app that we developed during the time I was off with a stroke. And we were able to continue our business through the app. And then we slowly started opening our other stores where the managers were going in and using the app. So without the stroke, I would never have built the website, done the roastery, had the online app. COVID came, we were able to continue business and just knuckle down and just keep going. And then we opened up about 3 or 4 shops during COVID. Another story. But yeah, it's just been remarkable. But then, like unfortunately, very sadly, in June of 22, my wife went to bed at night and she never woke up. So obviously that was a tragic event. And like I say, we'd been married 22 years, got 4 daughters at home at the time, and so just another. I mean, obviously a major life changing experience that happened there. On the back of my stroke, obviously I thought I was always healthy. I always like gymming and stuff, but nothing too much. But in October 21, I was given all clear from the cardiologist because I had heart surgery after the stroke as well to fix a defect in my heart, which they discovered after the stroke. So I'd started working with a PT in Dubai, and I got into the best shape of my life. Like I say, I'm 48 in May. Got into the best shape of my life, and I had really good habits, and I was building that. And I started after my wife died. I was able to continue those habits. I was still getting up. I was still walking. I was still eating good. I was still going to the gym. Really trying to keep my mind and my body well so I could cope with life as now was thrown at us. And over that next year, people started coming to me, "Hey, Paul, listen. Obviously, we know your story. We know about your stroke. We know about your wife dying. We see that you're still walking your dogs. You're still positive. You're still motivated. What is it you're doing?" And I created this new app, this new company called Podium Fitness. And basically, it was a way for me to express my journey after loss, after stroke. And I was able to do that. And it was a few months in, people started coming to me and saying, "Hey, Paul, listen, we want to be part of this Podium Fitness. We need to get our life sorted out." And I put on a thing on my Podium Fitness to say I'm looking for 5 clients to start with me, and I got 10 straight away. So this has been something now that I've been doing. I've got a new client starting tonight at 6 o'clock. Most of the guys are a little bit older, generally, or very not over very overweight, but overweight, looking just to get back into a bit of health, get a kickstart again, and their journey is incredible as well. So that's something that I've basically leaned on to help me through this these past few years of after the loss of Wendy, my wife, and then we've obviously just been moving on there with the business. I did have 16 shops at the time that Wendy died, and I scaled it back to 8. Some were new, some were not great, some were failing. And I thought I'll take that point just to basically scale back. Anything that's still open is operating well, doesn't need too much involvement from myself, and I can take time. And I took on somebody new to basically oversee the business for me, Drew Wiley, and then basically now more focused, and we're starting to drive again. We're going into like expos with our coffee machines. We're hopefully getting a contract with some of the local golf courses with our coffee beans, which entail would be retail for the Americans and the other visitors from around the world. And hopefully we're going to really scale our business up, but without necessarily opening more locations, but more like using what we've already got and just pushing sales, expanding sales, and making the story even more successful.
Yeah,
That's a lot of information there, Mark. That's a
that
lot of
is a
information.
lot of information, and it's remarkable. Remarkable what the journey that you've been on and what you've been through on a personal level, and yet you're still here, your businesses are thriving, and yeah, just incredible, incredible, Paul, and what, very inspiring. And I'm gonna what really stood out there um during that, and what's really impacted, is what you said about positive mind and your body as well. Um, can you maybe tell us about a little bit more about how
Yeah,
that is so important,
yeah,
especially now this is a business sort of podcast that we do. So could you, anyone who's thinking of going into business or is in business, can you tell us the importance of
yeah,
looking after yourself,
yeah,
your mind and your body then, and how it's so
yeah.
important for business?
Well, I mean, for me, it would go remiss if I didn't say it. I'm actually a Christian as well. So basically, I've got a faith. And many people do maybe different faiths, different things that help you. But for me, I'm a Christian. So for me, it's like bad stuff happens to good people, happens to bad people. Good stuff happens to good people, bad people. It's just life. It's just life. But obviously, for me, for my faith, it's like, well, whatever happens, just happens, and it shouldn't change me. So, for example, when my wife died, I said, I either believe it or I don't. I either believe it or I don't. So it's like, well, I believe it, so I can continue. So, like I say, then when I started with the coach in Dubai, I went to a conference. I'd done my training for 6 months, and I got into the best shape of my life. Like, it's really lean. If you want to look at Podium Fitness, you can look at my pictures there and stuff and see the transformation that was in 6 months. And unbelievably, the coach there invited me to come out. It was like a conference that he was putting on, and basically everybody that he has, mainly 40 plus men. Uh, there are some women, but mostly men, businessmen, and they come from all over the world to these things in Dubai and London and New York. And so I was invited along, and I'd only been in there for 6 months, and he asked me to come as one of the guest speakers, just to share my story, which was incredible. And there was one guy there called Mark Coles, and he's a big fitness guy in London, one of the first online coaches. If you want to look him up, Mark Coles, and he was the speaker on after me. So when I'm googling who the speakers are, I'm like, wow, how am I even like I'm getting to go to Dubai and go to this conference? That's brilliant, but how am I actually getting invited to speak? So I looked into Mark Coles, and Mark Coles was there, and what he spoke about. Basically when he first spoke about it, I thought, no, no, this isn't right. But after my experience with the passing of Wendy, it made more sense. So what he basically said there, he said, right, you're all here in this room. He said, what's most important to you in your life? Put it down on your paper. So everyone's obviously writing their partner, their kids. And at the bottom, it's like their business and themselves. And he was like, no, you're wrong. You got to put yourself first. And I'm obviously thinking, and he's like, I only got married when I was 40, blah, blah, blah. I think, well, no wonder you only got married when you're 40. You're putting yourself first, you know? Yeah. You're selfish. But when I thought about it, I understood what he was actually saying was, if you look after your health, your body, your mind, you're going to be the best you, which means you're going to have a really successful business, which means your partner isn't going to want for anything because you're positive, you're strong, you're wealthy, you're healthy, which means your partner and your family and your home and everything below that is secure. But I always seen it as, man, he's so selfish. No wonder him. Or it's more, but I don't think he meant that. I think what he meant is the importance. How can you give out of an empty cup? How can you have a successful business if you yourself aren't getting enough sleep, aren't getting enough water, aren't going to the gym, aren't in a good mindset, aren't reading the right books? So for me, like I sat there in the Bible and be like, imagine if I wrote on this paper, I put myself first, and then your partner looks at it, it would be like, what? So you're almost thinking what the other person would think if you wrote yourself first. But yeah, now on looking back, it's like, yeah, if you're not the best you, how can you be the best for the people below you, for your employees, for your kids, for your
Yeah.
partner?
Yeah. I think that, yeah. How can you be the best version of yourself? Yeah. And you know, to get everyone else up to that level as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. Again, very inspiring, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, no
You know,
problem.
what's, you've probably thought about this, or I don't know. Let's ask the question: is the next 5 years? What does that look like for yourself and your
Yeah,
businesses? Then
yeah.
what's it looking like?
Well, it's interesting for me because like I always thought when I was 50, what I'd quite like to do is be owner. And by owner, I mean actually almost like just own most of the shares and not really be involved in the business as such, but have those tiers. But obviously things change all the time. But I'm 50 in 2 years' time, so I have ideas, and I'm happy to share those ideas. Some could be management buyout. So maybe some of the shops are like, oh, I've been working for Paul for 10 years. You know, I could have my own shop. And I'm like, hey, listen, don't open in competition. Why don't we do a deal? You manage your own shop. You make the profit. You pay me something for it. You make the profit. I keep some share. Maybe there's some other companies that are a bit behind me in time. Like maybe they're really wanting to push and open and open and open. Might be looking for sites up this area of Scotland, and I'm like saying, okay, well, I'm happy for three to go. You know, and me concentrate on more that are more local to me. So that's a possibility for somebody to be able to come and do that. There might be an opportunity for me to have somebody come along who really wants to drive the Symposium brand. They love it. They've come through it. They've seen it. And I'm like, well, look at my point in my life. I'm looking to be a bit easier. I sell maybe 50% of the business. That person then takes over managing director and they drive the business forward. And I'm there as like the council, you know, they come and speak to me about it. What do you think about this? This is what we want to do. Maybe I sell 40%, maybe I sell 80%, maybe I sell out. There's loads of opportunities, there's loads of things. Some people say to me, why would you ever sell if you can always just keep making the money? But although business is good and fun, it is stressful. It is stressful. The VAT bill comes in for 50,000, and you know, like you need to change your coffee machines 5, 10,000. You've got to do this, you've got to do that. The roof falls in your shop. You know, people don't turn up to work. It's loads of things that are stressful. And the one thing I need to remove from my life is stress that I can control. There's some things I can't control. My eldest daughter got married this year, so that was, well, last year. So you know that was exciting, and obviously big wedding dolls and all that kind of stuff. And I've got two daughters driving. I've got another one driving next year, and I've bought them all a car. So I know a little old car, but I've given two a car, so I've got to get another car. So there's always like stresses in life, but as much as I can control stresses, I will. So there's loads of things that I could think about doing in that, but I don't have one actually pinpointed down. I'm quite happy just controlling the business, and we've always kind of done it organically, so we've not been going aggressively looking, pushing. Usually, people come to us and say, "Hey, listen, we've got this site." Asda, for example, they came to us and asked us, "Would you be willing to open up in Peterhead and Asda?" It's like, okay then. So it is organic growth. So I think the same way, if I do take a further step back from the business or look to sell part of the business or anything like that, then I think it would just be organic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Going back to some of the challenges that you've faced as a business owner, you talked a little bit about that. But with challenges come an opportunity to learn. I often think, and we learn more from those moments in life. So what's been your biggest learning as a business owner then?
I think, I mean, obviously,
Or learnings? There's probably
yeah,
been lots
yeah,
for you.
yeah. I think for me, it's like I work a lot on gut. So my gut instinct or your God instinct, whichever way you want to look at it. But I always like go with gut. So if it feels good, then I'll explore it, basically. A lot of things like if I go into a shop and there's a new employee there, as soon as I walk in the door, I got instinct, and I'll be like, I don't think this person should be here. And I'll go to the manager and say, hey, who's the new person? Oh, it's so and so. Okay, how are they getting on? I say, well, why are they still here? Why are they still here? And so I guess for me, it is going with that gut and understanding that. And we've shot shots like shot shots, like I said, and it is that thing. It's quite hard because it's like there's jobs going to be lost. There's maybe embarrassment. There's maybe leases that you've got to continue to pay. There's maybe loads of things that would affect that. But at the end of the day, for me, with my gut, if I'm like, no, this has got to change, then I'm quite happy just to go ahead and do that. So I think just over the time, and the more that you do it, obviously 19 years, I can't believe it's 19 years, but the more you do it, the more you realize the quicker that you make that decision, the better. Because a lot of times we just go, oh, we should, positive or negative, we should make that change, we should make that change, and it goes on far too long. And actually, at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't want nonsense, I don't want stress. So when I get that gut feeling of okay, this has got to change, I just start and I go like, okay, let's see what we're going to do here. So I think the biggest learning thing for me is trust, trust your instinct, trust your gut, trust your heart, trust your head. Don't be too rash, obviously, because head and heart are two separate things. But yeah, sometimes you want to hold on to something because of your heart. When your head, you should let go. So with me, I think the biggest learning over the time is go with gut and don't take so long to make a decision. Just make that decision, whether it's to go for it or to pull it back.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of answered my last question there, which was going to
Oh,
be any advice for anyone going into business. But instead, but you've already give us that,
mm,
and that's fantastic. Some brilliant pieces of advice there. It's brilliant for anyone who's looking to go into business. Absolutely, follow your gut. Absolutely,
yeah,
and make decisions. Follow your instinct. Love that.
yeah,
Love that.
yeah,
So my last question instead is going to be to that person who left school
yeah,
with nothing, as you
yeah,
said, not a lot of education, went into the joinery first. If you could go and speak to that young lad
yeah,
and give him any piece of advice to a 16-year-old, then what would it
yeah.
be?
I would basically be saying, look, what's your passion? What is it? What is it you want to do? Like for me, obviously, it was just to please people, just make people happy, and I don't want to be a clown. So I wasn't going to join the circus. So yeah, so basically just like what is it you want to do? What is your passion? And then basically just look for that opportunity. So I worked in bars, worked in bars from age 18. I didn't even drink till I was like I didn't even have the first beer till I was like 18 working in a bar. So it's like it wasn't even a thing either. But I worked in a bar. I enjoyed it. I loved like remembering people's drinks, what their name was, when their birthday was, what their dog's name was. So that was my thing. So what is your passion? And just try and seek out something in that field. And when you are working, don't think like you're working for the boss and for the pound. Make sure you're working for yourself. Make sure like you're really enjoying it for you, that you're getting satisfaction out of it, that you're getting that buzz from it. As much as like I'm going to the gym this afternoon at 3:30. I'm buzzing for it. I'm really excited to go. I'm not always excited to go, but if the general idea is I'm generally wanting to go and do that thing, then that's the thing you should do. So don't sit about, get involved, see who you can work with, look for somebody. I remember going to a charity ball and Duncan Bannatyne was there, and there was a thing. If you wanted to ask him a question for £10, put your hand it up. But then what they did, they got cheeky when it got to £300. They said, "Come and stand in the middle of the floor." And then it was £400 to ask them a question, and then it's £500 to ask a question. Obviously, I'm sweating it. I'm thinking, oh man, I don't want to go and sit down now because I'll look bad. Well, anyway, I stayed standing, and I paid £500 to ask Duncan Bannatyne a question. And my question was, Duncan, finance for my business. Should I go to a bank or should I go to an individual for the money? And he said, always the bank. Because if the bank chase you for money, that's one thing. But if you're owed money to an individual and they get themselves in a position where they need their money, it's not going to end well. So that's a bit of advice as well. Don't lend money from friends, family, as best you can. Go to the bank.
Absolutely. Brilliant pieces of advice again there. Um, Paul, I'm absolutely inspired. Honestly, it's been fantastic um, speaking to you. It's been an absolute privilege just hearing from you and your story. And thank you so much for sharing it with us and our audience. We really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much, Paul.
Brilliant. Website symposium.coffee.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for watching
Okay.
and listening. Hopefully you have enjoyed it just as much as I have. It's been an absolute pleasure having Paul Haggath of Symposium Coffee House. And I am Mark Hunter of Action Coach. Thank you very much for listening. Bye for now.